I miss her.
Afraid to lose her, I think. Fear is the path to the dark side. Obi-Wan! Obi-Wan!
Anakin Skywalker, once the brightest light in the galaxy, the greatest hero, but now a Jedi Knight fallen into darkness under the grip of tragedy. But this story goes deeper than Anakin's hunger for power or his reign of terror as Darth Vader. This is the story of his quest for immortality. When we delve into the mind of this character, we see how a vibrant and sweet child can transform into a more ruthless villain. Initially, we observe how someone on the light side struggles with their fears and how others exploit these fears to deceive him, leading him to the dark side. Through this character, we particularly see why clashing with the concept of death can be such a dangerous situation. The topic of this video is the philosophy of the Anakin character. Anakin is a highly talented and intelligent child who lives with his mother. The leaders of the light side, noticing this, quickly put Anakin through various tests and realize that he possesses truly special and superior abilities. However, despite these remarkable abilities, Anakin harbors a growing fear within him. He is afraid of the concept of death, especially the death of his beloved mother. Growing up without a father, Anakin is very attached to his mother. His sensitivity towards her death immediately catches the attention of the light side. Although he receives advice from those around him to overcome this fear, Anakin struggles to apply this advice to his life. The idea of his mother's death terrifies him and haunts his dreams. Let's take a closer look at this problem. How does a person overcome the fear of death? In fact, all of us, just like Anakin, struggle with the concept of death. Every person fears the knowledge that they and their loved ones will one day die and develops some defense mechanisms against it. This struggle with death is something we have been dealing with since the beginning of our existence. Just as alchemists centuries ago tried to discover immortality. However, the most common defense mechanism we develop against death is religion. Religions offer concepts such as life after death, heaven, and hell, providing people with the idea that death is not the end and thus alleviating the fear of its terrifying nature. When we return to Anakin, we see that he not only fears the death of his loved ones but also desires to control death. However, Anakin fails to develop a defense mechanism that allows him to accept death. Thus, he tries to control death on his own. But in the Star Wars universe, Anakin will learn the hard way that death is not something that can be controlled. One day, Anakin learns that his mother has been kidnapped by a gang. Without wasting any time, he goes to the camp where the gang is located. Upon arrival, he finds his mother tortured and severely injured. Shortly after, his mother dies in his arms. We can easily predict that his mother's death will deeply affect Anakin and even change him. After all, his greatest fear since childhood has come to pass. So, what path will someone who realizes they cannot control the death of their loved ones take next? The answer is violence. Anakin realizes that he cannot overcome his struggle with death. A person who understands that they cannot protect themselves and their loved ones from death resorts to violence as a last resort. What he means by violence here is essentially killing others. For Anakin, killing others provides the killer with a sense of control over the concept of death and even the illusion of having overcome it. Even after his mother's death, Anakin still cannot escape his fear of losing his loved ones. In fact, this fear intensifies. Now, he fears the death of his wife. Anakin was warned from the beginning. A person who spends a long time alone with their fear will eventually be overtaken by it. Unable to find answers to the problem of death on the light side, Anakin shifts his focus to the dark side's views on death. The dark side leader, Palpatine, tells Anakin about a legend during one of their meetings. According to this legend, someone from the dark side long ago was able to save their loved ones from death. Anakin doesn't even question whether this legend is true. The idea of saving his loved ones from death is enough to excite him. However, there is a cost to achieving this. Palpatine indicates that someone from the dark side could save their loved ones from death, just like in the legend. After this answer, Anakin decides to join the dark side, and his journey to becoming Darth Vader begins. During this process, he betrays the light side, battles his mentors, and even reaches a point where he kills children, but he still cannot save his wife from death. As seen, following the dark side not only fails to overcome death, but also worsens the situation. When we see Anakin in this pitiable state, we understand that the dark side has a fundamentally flawed perspective on death. So, what is the light side's approach to death? To understand their philosophy, let's return to Stoicism. Stoics recognize that people who overcome their fear of death and accept it set a higher ideal for themselves. This higher ideal may be religion for some or the legacy they leave behind for others. However, for the light side, this ideal is their belief in a mysterious force in the Star Wars universe. In this universe, the concept of power is based on balance. Just as the light side balances the dark side, the concept of death is balanced within life. Therefore, the light side, which holds great respect for the concept of power, also approaches death with respect as part of that power. Moreover, the light side's perspective on death is quite accepting and even involves surrender. This viewpoint closely resembles Stoic philosophy. In Stoicism, instead of clashing with and fighting against life's uncontrollable painful aspects like death, one should accept and surrender to these pains. According to Stoicism, it is wiser to accept uncontrollable things and act appropriately towards them rather than fighting them. Similarly, the light side in the Star Wars universe has a philosophy of living peacefully with unavoidable realities like death. Yes, that's it for today. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe.